Hello, Night Nation. Trace Trelko here. Welcome into the of UCF Live. Hello, Adam. Hello, Mike.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Merry Flipmas. Happy early signing day. Happy basketball's on right now day. Happy every day to everybody.
Yeah, I'm watching the game right now, so I'm even more distracted than normal during these shows. But pretty decent one right now, 40-34. We just started the second half.
Good that you brought that up, Mike. Knights led 38-32 over Stetson at the half. They jumped out, as they have done the last couple of games, to that big lead early, 8-0. But tell you what, they can't seem to defend the three. Stetson got back into this one, hit the long ball.
Yeah, we just hit a three right now ourselves. Another hot start. So this is 3 games in a row where UCF started off at a pretty good clip and then lets the other team sneak back in right now. Obviously, it seems like we've got a little bit more size than Stetson does. We should be able to dominate a little bit, but we'll see what happens second half. 43-34 with about 17 minutes to play.
Knights looking to move to 9-3 in non-conference play, open conference play next week. The big story today, though, of course, all the booms, they started early. One of the mailbag questions I dragged up to the top of the show at Spursy Night is recruiting turning out as you expected. Gus Malzahn was certainly happy when he met with the media today. 5 from Greater Orlando, 10 of 14 from Florida. And a quick look at now these recruiting rankings. I'll tell you, you can't put a whole lot of stock in them. On3 has UCF at 40, Rivals 47, 24/7 at 52. But they pull the points for the total number of recruits. So UCF's got 14. A school like Texas Tech in the Big 12 has 26 recruits. So this is coming out as the best rated recruiting class in UCF football history.
Yeah, highlighted by John Walker, the highest ever recruits in UCF history based on that star system. And look, the reality is none of us know how good some of these kids will be. If you look at the law of averages, we'll have a couple of superstars here, a bunch of role players, and a couple guys that won't even stick. I think the bigger picture here is that UCF's going into Orlando. They're winning battles against the traditional Florida schools. They're keeping kids at home. And all it takes is one class to get guys to start to realize, hey, I can stay home. I can play here in Orlando, and I can have a really nice career in the Big 12 and go on and do bigger things in football. So while I don't know if any of these guys are going to be, the next great name in UCF history, I think some are really, really talented. I think the optics of what Gus is doing, how he's keeping these kids at home, I think that's a huge win overall for UCF recruiting.
Not only do we not know if they're going to be good, we don't even know if they're going to be here in 2 years, 3 years, forget 4 years. The way college football goes nowadays, the transfer portal, who the heck knows? So it's hard for me to get excited about any of them. I mean, I tell me on paper they look good. I like that we added some. It looks like a bunch of good players on the defensive line. That's nice. But who knows if they're even here in a year or two? And then the guys that we missed out on, some of the bigger targets, may be here next year, right? Because of the transfer portal. So it's one of those days where, it's something you got to do. We got to talk about it. But really, I don't know.
Well, Mike, you mentioned something that the transfer portal and keeping guys happy, and you see what happens when a guy goes somewhere. Just before we went on, Caden Lee announced he was going to Ole Miss. I guess he's following in Jay Flash's footsteps, hoping to succeed there, and chooses them over UCF. What do you think of the mix, though, of this, guys? 14 recruits, and some of the pickups in the transfer portal. It's going to be interesting to see how Coach Malzahn and staff approach what the proper mix is here.
Well, yeah, I left the transfer portal guys off this list at this point. They are not officially at UCF until they enroll in school. So for those who are questioning that, obviously, if you remember the long, illustrious UCLA career of Dylan Gabriel, the transfer portal doesn't count until you get on campus. So we're keeping some of those guys off the list. But the biggest glaring, the 2 biggest things that are going to stick out to me. One, obviously, a concerted effort on the defensive line. With a bunch of kids locally from on that side of the ball, a couple of guys in the secondary, but still thin at linebacker. Troy Ford Jr. Yeah. Gus, continue to call him an old school player. There's some thought that perhaps that we see Isaiah Nixon maybe be in that big cat, buck position of a linebacker hybrid, but still a glaring need on linebacker. But I think the biggest thing that sticks out is you got to win in the trenches. Only 1 O-lineman, 2 O-linemen in this class. Do we need more than that? But a concerted effort on the D-line.
The best thing for me today was the schools that we beat out for some of these players. And 3 of these guys could have been Florida Gators. That wasn't happening a couple years ago. We're no longer battling against Miami of Ohio and Northern Illinois. And the MAC days are gone. we're going up against the Auburns and the Floridas of the world. That's a great sign for the program going forward.
Another quarterback added to the mix as well, Dylan Risk. He won the 4A state championship with Cardinal Gibbons in 2021. He seems to fit the mold of what Coach Malzahn likes in a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Gus eyed him early on and stuck with him. And there's a lot of rumors about Malachi Singleton, who ended up signing with Arkansas, being a guy that Gus really wanted. But Gus stayed loyal to Dylan Risk and identified him at a camp, said that that's the kind of quarterback I want, despite the fact that maybe Malachi behind the scenes was still a little bit of an option. Gus stayed loyal. Mike and I are probably a tad biased. We went to Cardinal Gibbons, so we obviously probably run for Dylan Risk a little bit. But Gus clearly identified that there's something in him that he liked and stuck with him. I think that speaks to, Gus said today, we don't recruit knuckleheads, and they try to do things the right way. I'm not calling anybody a knucklehead, but it's clear that Gus decided, I made a commitment to this kid. I'm going to stick to it.
This kid wants to be here more than anybody. He's been loyal to Gus the entire time. He's been very excited about joining UCF. If you follow along his videos and his Instagram posts and Twitter posts, he seems to be the guy that never wavered for a second. And I love that about him. I love that he went to my high school. He's from right around the corner here, so I'm going to root for him.
Of course, this comes in the backdrop of UCF losing offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey to North Carolina and defensive coordinator Travis Williams to Arkansas. Addison Williams gets the promotion to defensive coordinator, no doubt helpful in keeping some of these guys in the fold. And this goes on amidst bowl prep. We're a week away from the Military Bowl, UCF and Duke, and we're going to dig into this one a little bit more now. Knights with their first media availability, hitting the practice field. And we heard from John Rice Plumlee last we saw him. Of course, he comes out back in that game at Tulane, that AAC championship game, and he gave an update on his health.
Yeah, feeling a lot better. After that last one, I got beat up a little bit, but I mean, that's football, it's that time of the year. But a week and a half off was huge, obviously, for physical health and getting some nicks and bruises kind of healed up, and obviously the hamstring is getting better as well. And so still taking it day by day, but definitely getting better.
Of course, we heard that leading up to the AAC championship game. It feels like the Knights need a healthy, or at least somewhat healthy, John Rice Plumlee instead of Thomas Castellanos if they hope to win this game against Duke in the Military Bowl.
Well, especially now, obviously, Mikey Keene today. Congratulations to Mikey. He announced he's heading to Fresno State to continue his college football career. So congrats to Mikey. But obviously now with JRP and still kind of an untested Thomas Castellanos, JRP's health is going to be important. I think we're going to see a bunch of Thomas. I think we're going to see packages of Thomas Castellanos. I think there's going to be a concerted effort, but obviously JRP being healthy. And this may be the last time we see him for a couple of months, Trace, strapping on shoulder pads and a helmet, right? Obviously football season coming to an end. He's going to go full-time in baseball here. So this may be our last chance to see JRP take live reps. Not sure what the spring game holds. So curious to see how he looks coming out of here, but we're certainly going to need a healthy JRP. This Duke team is pretty solid. It's going to be a tough game. Healthy JRP would be a huge win for UCF.
It's a big game for him confidence-wise to finish this season, too. Let's face it. He didn't have his best games down the stretch, and he was hurt. And he needs to prove to himself that he's healthy and he can play well against a pretty good team. Beat a good team in a neutral site. I think that's big for him heading into next season. And then let the QB competition start again. We'll go through this whole dance all over again next year.
We're going to be talking about it all over again. Knights leading 47-40 over Stetson, just under 14 minutes. Let's get to know a little bit more about Duke by inviting into the Suns Live. Steve Wiseman covers Duke for the Herald Sun and the News and Observer. Steve, welcome into Sons of UCF Live.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Good to be with you.
Talk about the job at 8-4 that Duke head coach Mike Elko has done this season with this team.
Well, I mean, just a dramatic 180-degree turn from what we saw the last two seasons, the last couple of years under David Cutcliffe, who did a tremendous job overall while he was here. He took Duke to 6 bowl games in 7 years before things went really haywire the last 3 years. And they lost 13 ACC games in a row. They weren't competitive at all at the end of last season. And Elko comes in and essentially with a lot of the same players. He brought in a couple of transfers, but it's a lot of the same guys that were struggling last year. He's made them, a competent team again. They don't turn the ball over as much like they used to. When they get behind in games, they have resilience that just wasn't there the last couple of years, and now it's there. And all 4 of their losses have been 8 points or less. So they've been in every game. They won 8, and they could have They could have easily won 10 in the regular season, which is an amazing thing at Duke, considering they've only had one 10-win season in the entire history of the program.
Steve, when you look at Duke's numbers, it's not hard to see Riley Leonard jump off the page at you. 31 total touchdowns from the QB position. What does he do really well when he's playing well? And if there's a hole in his game, have you observed anything in his game where, maybe there's something UCF can exploit?
Yeah, I mean, he's really he knows when to pull it down and run, and when to stay in the pocket a little longer and try to make that extra pass. I mean, he really it really surprised me, to be honest with you, and a lot of people coming in. He started one game last year, and it went terribly bad against Virginia Tech, 47-10 loss. And so we really didn't know what to expect from him coming in this year. And frankly, Elko and the staff here didn't either, because of what they saw in the spring. They were a little uncertain, and Leonard kind of enjoyed the fact that everybody said Duke had the worst quarterback room in the ACC because everybody else had somebody coming back or a 5-star recruit or something. And so Riley has really taken that chip on his shoulder and turned it into really an incredible season. I mean, he's a very good runner, like I mentioned earlier. And sometimes I know this might be a cold weather game. They had a cold weather game up at Pitt next to the last game of the regular season, and that didn't go very well. Riley is from the Mobile area, South Alabama, so not used to really cold weather, and that game didn't go well. So that might be something to watch for. I know, obviously, UCF isn't used to cold weather either, but as far as Riley Leonard not having a good day throwing the ball, that might be an area we can look at again, because that game didn't go very well for them at Pitt.
Tell us about some of the other weapons on offense. Is this primarily a passing offense? So if you guys are forced to run the ball, you have a bell cow running back, and tell us a little bit about the receivers.
Yeah, I mean, mainly the best part of the offense is the running game, because Leonard, runs the ball so much. Duke was averaging, they were second in the ACC for the longest time this year, averaging about 210 yards a game. And they had some injuries on the offensive line. A couple of the running backs, Jordan Waters and Jalen Coleman, were banged up at different times. So the last 3 games of the regular season, they kind of fell off a little bit. They had 3 of their worst rushing games of the year. They still won 2 of them, but that kind of brought their average down. So Jacob Monk is back playing after missing the last month or so. The extra time off for the bowl game allows him to be back at practice. That's the starting right guard, who's a 4-year starter now. So that's going to help him there. Jalen Coleman and Waters are all healthy again. So they don't have one bell cow running back. They kind of use it by committee. They one guy in for 2 or 3 series, then switch it out, then switch another guy out, and then Leonard mixes in some running as well. So they kind of mix it up that way. In the receiving area, Jalen Calhoun is a senior, 4-year starter. He's a trusted guy out there. Jordan Moore is really the guy to watch. He's a sophomore who was in competition to be the starting quarterback with Riley Leonard as far as in the middle of August. And they decided that Leonard was going to be the guy. And Moore is such a tremendous athlete. They moved him to wide receiver, and he's really been a revelation. He's been fantastic this year, especially as the year went on and he got more and more comfortable at wide receiver. He's become a big play guy out there. So another guy at wide receiver is Eli Pancol, who's a senior who got hurt midway through the year and didn't play last, I guess, 6 or 7 games. But he's back healthy now, which gives him another kind of, a trusted guy out there that can make contested catches. So they're more healthy now on offense than they have been, in a month or so.
Let's shift over to defense. Of course, for UCF, we don't know if quarterback John Rice Plumlee, who's been battling a hamstring issues, will be playing and healthy in this game. How has Duke's defense fared against a mobile quarterback like John Rice?
Yeah, I mean, they, the defense hasn't been the strength of this team. Mostly, it's been more on the offense. And even though Elko's a defensive guy, he kind of had to work with what he had, with the group that came in, which was, easily the worst defense in the ACC over the last 2 seasons. So they did get better as the year went on. They got better, particularly with the blitzing schemes. Early on, when they would blitz, they'd have some mistakes in zone coverage behind that. That kind of got cleaned up as the year went on. The coaching staff did a great job with that. So you'll see a lot of, linebacker get back there, or safety. Brendan Johnson, has made some big plays from safety, a lot of TFLs, things like that. Wouldn't expect to see from a safety, but he gets back there and does that kind of thing. So, it's all going to be about discipline and they call it eye discipline, right? You got to make sure who has the ball at the right time and that they don't let gaps get out there for Plumlee or whoever's back there at quarterback to have those open lanes, because they played Kansas earlier this year. Jalen Daniels was a really good running quarterback, and they had trouble with him.
Steve, you mentioned this. They lost 4 games this year, obviously by a total of 16 points. 8 points or fewer for all their losses. In the games that they lost, what was the difference? What do you think the team didn't do to close those games out? Are there things that they've learned throughout the season that gives you hope that if they get into another close game, that they could pull this one out against UCF if they have to?
Yeah, they had some 2 of them I know were penalties, really bad penalties. They had a penalty in overtime. A illegal chop block against Georgia Tech that cost them that game. They were getting ready to go in. They were going to be inside the 10 if that play would have stood to score a touchdown and win the overtime. And that mistake happened. They had a couple penalties late against Carolina in that game that let that game get away from them, and Carolina won late in that one. So that's been it. The penalties have been a little more than what Elko and the staff want overall this season. Now, it's not, at times they'll be okay, but then, they have had those crucial mistakes in those 2 games in particular. I mean, Kansas, they just couldn't stop, what was going on there with their offense. I mean, Kansas had a great offense this year. And Pittsburgh, again, was the cold weather game where the offense didn't play as well.
You think maybe they benefited a little bit from a soft schedule? They played the 2 bottom teams in the Atlantic Division. The 3 losses are to the good teams in the Coastal. What's the most impressive performance they put together all year?
Well, it's the Wake Forest, the last one, because that's the only game they've beaten a team that ended up with a winning record. So that was, that's kind of the way the schedule was this year. And, but when you consider where Duke was the last 2 years, it's hard to nitpick with how well they've done. But yeah, they've beaten the teams they should beat, except for Georgia Tech. That game, that's the one that obviously they should have won that one, given the way Georgia Tech was going and the way they ended up. But they didn't have a challenging schedule this year. They took advantage of what they had. The only upset, again, they really pulled was Wake Forest, the last game of the regular season. So at least they're coming off of that one, coming into the bowl game. But yeah, they have to prove they can beat really good teams, and that's not something they've been able to do this year.
Over the course of this season, UCF has turned to a freshman punter and kicker. What about special teams for Duke?
Jesus, a little nippy out here.
Yeah, Calhoun returns punts. He's a pretty good punt returner, but he had a couple of botches. One particularly against Pitt where he fumbled a punt and cost him a touchdown, which ended up costing him the game. It was early in the game, but he ended up losing the game by a couple of points. That's the kind of mistake you have. So he's kind of all or nothing there. Jalen Simpson's a pretty good kick returner. So if they allow him to return kicks, if they don't kick it out of the end zone or whatever, then he's somebody that can break off one and do some big things there. They're pretty good in the punt game. Porter Wilson is a really good punter. And the kicking game is a little bit suspect. Charlie Ham hasn't been. He was out for part of this year, and they went with a redshirt walk-on freshman, Todd Polino, when Ham was out. So that's not a strength at all. In fact, they have to, when they're inside the 30 or get around the 30, inside the 35, they have to end up going for it quite a bit on 4th down because they just don't trust the kickers to make those long kicks. On a cold day, they wouldn't do that anyway. So that's not a strength, but the punting game is, and they got some help in the return game there.
Steve, how big a game is this for Duke? Gus Malzahn has talked about this as an opportunity for UCF to win 10 games this year, which obviously a lot of college teams want to do. Every year during bowl season, you hear all the teams saying we weren't motivated and all these other things going on. Do you have any sense for how big a game this is for the program?
Yeah, it's just a continuation of this incredible resurgence and turnaround that Duke has experienced, and already a lot of the veteran players. I mentioned Jacob Monk, the offensive lineman, Dwayne Carter, the second team All ACC defensive tackle, Jamie and Franklin, another starting defensive tackle, have agreed that they've already announced they're going to come back and play next year. A couple of them have, the extra year because of COVID. Carter could have gone to the NFL with his talents, and he's decided to come back and play. So that tells you the culture that's going on in the Duke program. They all want to be part of this. They're a part of some really rough seasons coming up to this year, and now they're having so much fun with the success, and they trust the staff so much that they want to come back and play more. So that tells you that how much you're thinking about this game. They want to win this game as a springboard into next year because, Duke's only had 2 seasons with 9 wins or more since 1941. So if they win this one, that'll be the 3rd one. It'd be a big deal for Duke. And then, we talk about the week schedule this year. Next year, the schedule changes in the ACC, and they're going to have Clemson and Florida State, and Notre Dame's a non-conference game. It's going to be dramatically different than this year. So they want to get that 9th win. They want to play really well, and then carry that into next year when they know it's going to be even a stronger challenge to get back and win 7 or 8 games.
How excited are the fans for this one? Are you expecting a big contingent to make their way over to Annapolis?
Yeah, it's not a far drive. It's 3.5 hours up there to Annapolis from the Triangle area here. So there's a lot of Duke alums in the Washington, D.C. area, and up and down the eastern seaboard. New York City and D.C. are big hotspots for Duke alums. So, they'll have a pretty good crowd there. They'll show out. This is not a program that draws really well at home yet because the program was down for so long. They had a lot of season tickets fall off, but there is some interest in this in the bowl games. Even during Cutcliffe's time, when they had bowl games, Duke, the support was there for bowl games. People wanted to make a trip out of it and make a big deal. And even if they didn't go to many regular season games, they'd want to make a trip to the bowl. So I think that's what you'll see on the 28th.
Steve, if Duke wins this game, what will have happened?
Well, they won't have turned the ball over. They'll win the turnover margin to win. They need to do that, and they'll keep the penalties down. They'll do a good job stopping UCF on 3rd downs. That's kind of been the stat I look at. They give up chunk plays. I mean, a lot of defenses give up chunk plays in college football now. It's just the way it is. But if they get enough stops on 3rd down to not let these long drives go on and get off the field, get the ball back in the hands of Riley Leonard, that's where they really need to make hay.
Steve, we appreciate you stopping by Sons of UCF Live, and thanks so much. Happy holidays.
Thanks for having me on. Yes, happy holidays.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
All right. Good that my brother-in-law brought you the weather report here during Sons of UCF Live as I'm in Parker,
Is he available
Colorado.
to come on the show, Trace? Is he
over
free?
the last hour, this Arctic blast has come in. It was in the 40s a little over an hour ago, and when I checked my phone right there, we are at 0 degrees now. It's going to be minus 16 overnight. So it's going to be cold for UCF up in Annapolis, but nothing like this. Interesting what Steve was talking about, special teams play, a little bit more reliable Colton Boomer, but he still hasn't had that high pressure kick. And how many of these guys have been in a cold weather environment like that? Speaking of Colton Boomer, we've been giving away prizes, compliments of Colton. And this week's winner is Ian Hardos. Who we thank. After I get back from the holidays next week, after the bowl game, I'll reach out to all of our winners and give out the Colton Boomer merchandise. I asked on my poll this week who's going to win the Military Bowl, what the margin is. UCF by more than 3, a homer crowd there. Bias in that one. We'll get our predictions just in a bit. But let's bring in our guy, Andy Barch, who is known as UCF XOS. He has been breaking down plays all season long for us. Andy, you heard Steve talking about Duke. What have you seen on film?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Riley Leonard, that's who the offense is going to run through right there. They're very much similar to UCF in a lot of aspects, similar in the offensive style that they run, and also similar in stats too. Riley Leonard, their quarterback, was also their leading rusher in yards. So you're going to see just very balanced on their side. Wide receivers, they don't have anybody over 1,000 yards. Running backs, they don't have anybody over 700 yards at the running back spot. So they're very, very similar how they're going to get the ball around to a lot of people, but the quarterback is going to be the catalyst of how they make their drives and how they end up scoring.
Andy, can I get a weather update for near you? Trace is obviously very chilly. Mike seems fine. Can I get a weather update from you?
I think it was like 65, 70 today. I don't know.
Okay. Andy's looking good. So is this Duke offense, Andy. Obviously, you pulled some clips that I'll throw on screen from you here, and you'll kind of talk over it. But if anyone's seen the breakdown videos that Andy and I have done on YouTube, it seems like Duke runs a pretty similar system stylistically, at least to what we see from UCF. Andy, is that kind of fair analysis from what you've seen?
Yeah, 100%. A lot of what they're going to do is they're going to try to option you, and they're going to try to pull the safeties down into the box. They're going to try to make you determine whether you're going to be covering pass or run more. So they're very comfortable even on this 3rd and long. They're very comfortable even just calling quarterback draw. Similar to say maybe what we did against Tulane. They're going to kind of spread you out just to open up that middle lane, and then again they can RPO as well. So they're going to want to have you determine very early on, hey, are we going to try to stop the run or are we going to try to stop the pass? Fortunately, and again, this is maybe a parallel to us, their quarterback has had a little bit of accuracy issues. They've had some explosive plays, but he might not necessarily be the most accurate quarterback that we've seen all year. So I think that's definitely going to be – it's going to be interesting to see exactly. I mean, it's almost like we're looking in the mirror.
Obviously, if you're the defensive coordinator, and it looks like we have openings, Andy, by the way, if you're available, how do you defend this style offense? What do you do against a quarterback who apparently likes to run the football here, but maybe won't be the most accurate passer?
Sure. I mean, for us, especially we know what our base was. I don't anticipate Addison Williams making huge wholesale changes in between, the 14 whatever practices we've had. So I'm assuming we're going to see just decent amount of zone defense. But realistically, I mean, one of the best ways that you can stop an RPO offense is by playing man, by being tight to the routes, not letting them get free and not worrying about what's going on the run side. But being a quarterback who runs, that's going to be another dynamic that adds to that. So I would anticipate that we are going to blitz, and I would anticipate that Addison might try to, bring a little bit of pressure and try to kind of up his name and get the defense excited about him going into next year.
Andy, I know you guys are planning to do the watch along for the bowl game. I already asked Adam this question. Are you going to be drinking during this game? It's a long game. You're going to be breaking down players. Are you doing Jello shots during the game? What's your situation?
Yeah, I mean, if we, I don't know what the YouTube rules are, but yeah, of course we'll be cracking something. So
down here at the Den, we did touchdown shots every time. Are you guys ready? Are you prepared to do that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, we'll have the shots going, Jello shots, pudding shots, everything.
Andy, UCF's guys that won't be there, Devontae Brown, Devon Wilson, who is the bigger loss on defense for the Knights going into this one?
For this game, I would say right now, Devon Wilson. Devon really, he played kind of multiple roles for us. Obviously, he played deep safety, and then he would also come up to the box, and he would play up tight with a tight end, and he would play on the line. He would play almost at a linebacker depth as well. So really, I would say when you get Devon is who's going to be able to handle those multiple roles and who's going to be able to play deep, who's going to be able to play short. And that's going to be, that's going to be a challenge. And I'm not sure who's going to fill that position right now.
And if you're Gus Malzahn and you have a true freshman quarterback and Thomas Castellanos, who I think we want to get some reps in that game, what kind of packages would you try to install for the true freshman? Obviously, he didn't look great in the championship game against Tulane. We saw him against Temple, though. He looked a little bit better. What kind of packages would you maybe try to install, or would you do something specific for the series of plays that he's going to run?
Personally, I think just based on kind of what he did against Temple, I would probably put him in for a lot of our jet series, a lot of our jet sweep series, get him a lot of the ability to kind of get the ball on the edge, but also play action off of that. We hit some longer plays against Temple when John Rice was in doing the jet sweeps. And then obviously when Tommy was in as well, he was able to bust off some runs off the backside of those and read it. And I think just helping him get to the edge, I think the younger someone is, it's not always easy to sit in the pocket and anticipate the big hits coming. So sometimes it's easier that they can get out to the edge.
I know today is one of your favorite days. Early signing day, recruiting is one of the things you're really into.
Yeah.
Have you been able to break down some film of some of our latest recruits, and who are you most impressed by?
So I did not on the high school side, but I did for college for the transfer guys, just because obviously it's a little bit easier to get some of their film and then able to actually kind of gauge better how their game is. But from all reports, everything about John Walker, he's supposed to be somebody who actually could play right away. That's not something that you always see from offensive linemen and defensive linemen. They're usually a little bit undersized. Even bigger ones in high school usually aren't quite where you need them to be. But just transferring in, I mean, I thought that our wide receivers, I thought that they looked pretty good coming through. And then, I mean, wide receiver, I think is going to be big. And then we also got the offensive lineman coming from Kent State, and being all conference, doesn't really matter which conference you're coming from. That tells me that you are a pretty good player. So hopefully he's able to pick up on the system pretty quickly.
Yeah, on that point, do you like a guy who's played a lot, even perhaps at the MAC level, versus a guy that may be a reserve at a Power 5 program?
From an offensive line standpoint, probably, yeah. From an offensive line standpoint, you see guys in the NFL who have played Division II, 1AA, and they transition pretty well. I think, the further away you are, wide receiver, sometimes it's a little bit easier to get on the field and flash and make some plays. But being, game speed and having those reps and that experience, I think that's hugely important, especially at the offensive line.
What'd you think of Mikey Keene making the announcement he's committing to Fresno?
It's good for him. It's great for him. Honestly, it's Fresno had a pretty good year. I think they went 10-4 this year, or 9-4. So hopefully he's transitioning into a program where he can have that opportunity to win again. And that's kind of the main thing, is that you hope that the guys that you hope that those guys that you're rooting for are able to have success, and they're not taking a lateral step, or they're not taking like a negative step just to try to get, whatever they're looking for. So hopefully he's able to get everything he wants out of this transfer, and hopefully that means playing time for him.
Yeah, their quarterback, Jake Hayner, I think graduates, so they'll have a competition, it sounds like, and I assume Mikey's going to be in the mix. Andy, let's do a plug for next Wednesday. So obviously UCF Duke in the Military Bowl. You and I are going to do a live Manning cast, X's and O cast style watch along, starting at 1:45. Mike will be at parts unknown. Trace will be in a press box someplace. So we're going to be joined by a special guest host, Brian W. Peterson has agreed to hop in as guest host. So buckle up, friends. We'll be live at like 1:45. We'll have some guests on. Andy, I know it's going to be tough to do, but you're going to try to break down some of what you're seeing during the game while we're watching the game. Obviously, we won't have highlights and stuff we can run, but it should be a good time. And if you've got nothing else to do on a Wednesday, if you're not going to Annapolis, Maryland, and why would you, by the way, you can hang out with me and Andy 2 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it. And, hopefully it's a win for us. Hopefully the guys, I don't know, they were worried about the weather. I don't know if the weather's really going to factor into it too much or not. I think it's just going to be a lot of running on either side.
And for those who are interested, so here's what I want to do, by the way. I want to make this interactive. So for Suns Plus members only, maybe, I don't know, I will send out a link to the stream. And if you're watching the game and something happens, you want to get in and talk to us, kind of like a radio show, just feel free to hop in whenever you want. So I'll send that out to a bunch of people. So if you're interested, if you're watching the game and you think you might want to join us, feel free to send me a DM. I'll send you a link. You can kind of hop in and share your thoughts while it's happening. So we'll try to keep it clean for the kids out there. Mike may hop in someplace from parts of New York, so it should be a good time.
Yeah, we got 4 hours, so the more the merrier.
We got a lot of time to kill. We're gonna have to bathroom breaks. We're gonna have to figure out a lot of logistics.
There's a lot of TV timeouts just in general when you're watching it live.
A lot of logistics.
Well, you may need the Jello shots for 4 hours of that. Andy, thanks so much for being with us on Sons of UCF Live this week, and good luck in that watch along, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you so much, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Andy. See you later.
All right, we got to know a little bit more about Duke. We know plenty about the Knights. Adam, what's your prediction in this one? Knights are 3-point dogs.
I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think Duke is obviously a really good team. Sounds like they're prepared to play. I know Gus is saying we're excited, but I don't know who's playing yet, at what level. Obviously, we got some guys who are not going to be on the field. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think Knights by like 1 is going to be my guess. I think it's going to be one of these where it's just kind of a back and forth, not a lot of defense played situation.
If you asked me the day after we lost to Tulane, I would have told you we probably lose this game by 10 points. The closer we're getting to kickoff, the less scared I am of Duke. I looked over their schedule today. They didn't beat anybody all year. They're not really that good. The only thing that worries me is if we turn the ball over. And I think they're very good at taking the ball away. If we don't turn the ball over and we play clean, we're going to beat these guys by 10.
All right, men's basketball, 3:22 left in this one. Knights have stretched it out. Stetson has been hanging around all night. 64-56 right now, Knights over the Hatters. You've been following on twonightsmedia.com. Leo Rodriguez has been writing post-game articles for us, and he joins us now live from the arena, noisy arena. Leo, this is closer than we expected it to be.
Absolutely. I mean, another fast start. We got out to an 8-0 lead, and somehow Stetson's kept it in it with three balls. We've been doing a poor job lately of guarding the three-point line, but that's really what's kept them in them. The Knights, they've gone close. The Hatters have gone close within three a few times. They tied the game once, and now the Knights are on a 9-0 run currently, and we're looking pretty good now. I think we're going to secure this one.
Leo, I've been watching the game while we're on live here. It looks like Darius Johnson again has come in and been a really solid role. What's he brought to the Knights here in the second half so far?
I think Darius, the point guard, I think his vision of the game, how he sees the game, he's very cautious with the ball. Today, they've done pretty good, like not turning the ball over a lot, something they really struggled with. So I think Darius being a leader and just attacking the basket, that's another thing that he does really good of, just attacking the basket, penetrating, kicking out to open guys. So I've been liking what I'm seeing out of him.
You mentioned that C.J. Walker wasn't going to be playing today. You said he was going to be undressed on the sidelines. Please tell me he is wearing clothes.
That's why I couldn't get him on the camera. I was like, he's going to be undressed tonight. But, yeah, it's just injury management from Coach, keeping him healthy for the conference play. But he's a guy we definitely miss out there for sure.
And speaking of clothes, what do you think about what Donnie Jones is wearing? He looks like a bum, doesn't he? I mean, Johnny Dawkins looks nice. He's got the jacket on. Donnie looks like he just rolled out of bed.
Yeah, he does. And considering his tenure here at UCF, he looks just like that. Very average. Very bummy.
All right, Leo, give us what's score now? How much time left?
We're up 10, 68-58. 2:37 left, and I think we're looking good. We're maintaining this lead right now, getting rebounds, scoring points, not going on the droughts that we're used to seeing. So we're looking to close this one out.
What's your first question to Coach Dawkins in the postgame?
Man, I think it's got to be the tug of war that he has. It almost seems like every game where the Knights get out to 10 points, 15 points, and they just let teams creep back in. So I'm seeing that trend, and that's something that I'm concerned about, especially with conference play around the corner. So definitely one to ask.
Leo, how big is
All right,
Leo
Rodriguez, we thank you for joining us on Suns Live.
Adam,
Go ahead.
had a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, how big has Ithiel Horton been? He had a big game against Missouri. I saw he hit a big three a second ago. How big has he been for UCF from the transfer portal?
It really looks like he's turned it. I think ever since the Evansville game, he's been a real asset shooting the basketball. His three-pointer is just sharp as it can be. And he actually had a really nice poster. I'm sure you saw that. He had a poster dunk, and he's definitely a gem for the Knights.
Can we see a shot of the court?
All right, Leo, thank you much.
Absolutely. Let's see if I can.
We got here live. Sure, we're breaking some sort of broadcasting rule there. Here we go. Nice.
There
nice.
it is.
Nice.
Can you zoom in on Donnie's clothes?
I'm not sure I could do that one, but just know it does look very bummy.
Very bummy. Leo Rodriguez live at the arena. Thanks, Leo.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you, Leo. Appreciate you.
Knights leading 68-58, 2:14 left in this one, looking to move to 9-3. They open conference play week from now, Wednesday, December 28th against Wichita State, 7 o'clock at the arena. I thought the 9-3 start was strong until I heard you guys talking about that they might need to go 13-5 or 14-4 to possibly get one of those bids from the AAC. And then I was like, I don't know if they can go 14-4 in the American.
Yeah, I mean, the AAC has not really been a league that's gotten a ton of bids trades. It's been a 1 to 2 bid league the last couple of seasons. Obviously, we know Houston was a Final Four team, so we anticipate they're going to be pretty good. We think Memphis has a bunch of talent. I think UCF is going to have to go on a run here and win 12, 13, 14 conference games. Not implausible. I mean, obviously some tough matchups against Houston and Memphis, but not implausible. But I think they're going to have to go on a nice little run here. What helps us is Taylor Hendricks is getting a lot of national publicity, Trace. And with people keeping an eye on Taylor, perhaps they're keeping an eye on UCF. Maybe they sneak in, get one of those at large, 67, 68 number bids. But I think they're going to have a really good American Conference season if they want to make some noise.
I'm very concerned about the final score here. They have Charge on XYZ is running a contest. If you can predict the final score, you get a free jersey. I'm close. I need a couple more. I had 73-66. We're at 71. We could use one more bucket. Maybe Stetson hits a couple more threes here, and I get myself a free jersey.
Yeah, that's tough. 66. You need 8 points from Stetson in a minute.
Yeah, I'm at a minute 22 on my clock.
Oh, well, they're at 58 at a minute. Okay. So you might have a tough time on that. Let's go around the kingdom. Women's basketball, they swept 2 games in their UCF Christmas Classic. They beat Elon 64-46, Idaho State 67-50. They're 8-3. They close out non-conference play next Thursday, December 29th against Texas Southern at 6 o'clock. Volleyball final rankings, 18th in the RPI, 22nd in the Volleyball Coaches Association poll. That is the highest final ranking for the Knights in D1 history. The MLS Super Draft has been going on while we've been talking to you, and the Knights have a first-round pick in forward Gino Vivi with the Los Angeles Galaxy. With the 23rd pick, he's the Knights' 5th first-round pick in MLS draft history.
Trace, how does one follow the MLS Super Draft? Is that on TV? Give me some details here.
I know I've been following it on Twitter, so
okay.
I don't know if it's televised, but I've been following it on Twitter.
Seems like a missed opportunity.
A couple football notes. Late before we came on, defensive end Kobe Perry said he will not be returning in 2023. However, we expect him to be playing in the bowl. Josh Salazar will be back in 2023. That's good. That's a good addition. A good return for the Knights. Knights, yes.
Breaking news from our guy Dolly Drama, who's saying that the Harris twins, if I'm reading this correct, who initially decommitted from UCF after Travis Williams left, may be having a change of heart. So Dolly with a drop here. So keep an eye on maybe 2 more guys joining this recruiting class. Thanks, Dolly.
Wow, Dolly, the breaking news. Love that. By the way, he's good with the funny things on the screen too. I saw the wise man line earlier, and
you missed one earlier. I did not put on screen. Him and Mario had a nice little exchange that is Suns Plus only. I think UCF might appreciate it.
Mike, well, you're not there. You tell me the final score when you get to it because it's final now.
Yeah, I saw it's over.
Yeah,
I predicted the UCF score exactly. If only Stetson could have hit a couple more threes, I would have had a free jersey. I don't know if you have to be exact or closest to the score. Maybe I still win.
Maybe you still have a chance.
Seems likely.
Knights compiled a combined 3.34 GPA fall semester, 3rd highest semester GPA in program history. And of course, just as we get ready to open the mailbag, want to get your thoughts. Mikey Keene to Fresno State. What do you think? Is that where you thought Mountain West program is where he would go?
I mean, it's hard to answer that without taking a shot at Mikey, right? But so many of the quarterbacks topped in the portal that it became pretty crowded pretty early. I think all told, he lands in a spot where I think he can compete. Again, they're losing Jake Hayner, who was their starting quarterback last year. So it looks like they'll have another open competition. I think if you're Mikey, that's all you want is a chance to be able to play, to come in and play at a high level. Fresno is a darn good program. And so I think it's probably all told. I don't know what other offers he had, but it sounds like it's a pretty good opportunity for him to come in and compete. So, good kid. I wish him well. I mean, I'll keep an eye on Fresno throughout the year. It gives him, I think, a chance to get on the field, which ultimately is what he probably really wanted and the reason he left UCF.
If I'm being completely honest, I don't care. Okay. He can go wherever he wants. I've never watched a Fresno State football game before, and I don't plan on starting now. So good for him if that's where he's going to be happy, but he's not.
Well, that's just because he made your naughty list on the podcast. He made the naughty. He did not make the nice list.
Everybody made that list.
Welcome to UCF, Mike. Welcome to UCF, Mike.
This is the real world, friends. I mean, most people are not nice.
And officially, Mikey Keene once a night. That's his title, right, Mike?
That's it.
Once a night.
That's right.
Final score from the arena: Knights 73, Stetson 58. UCF 9-3. Conference play begins next week. All right, mailbag time.
Well, I mean, if it's mailbag time, that means
It's that time again. Let's open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
That's never going to not make me laugh.
Are we continuing that into 2023?
As long as I can do it, Trace. Only until it becomes the Dolly drama mailbag or something. And as long as I can do it.
Dolly, we need to work you into the show. All right, some walk-in talks this week with some locales. You said.
Yeah, we do. We do some walk and talk, Trace. Our once again, our listeners step it up. Let's go with Robert first, who is at Parts Unknown.
Hey boys, 2 letters, 2 words here. Got a question for you. I'm here in Pompeii, Italy. And if you look at the post behind me on that wall, I'm in the middle of an amphitheater that was used for dramas and comedies. And those posts used to hold awnings where they would hoist lemon branches over the audience when it got hot. So the question is this: is this the next amenity that we need in the bounce house? Or is it something else? Go Knights. Charge on.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Robert was this close to getting Peterson because that got a little bit lengthy there for a few seconds in there. This close, Robert. Yeah, he almost got Peterson on that one. Yeah, shade would be great at the bounce house. Obviously, there's some parts where the sun can start cooking. Shade would be great. Wi-Fi would be great as well.
I'm all for shade. I mean, I don't know how you got to do it to protect my side of the stadium because I'm on the east side. I guess you can build a big tarp on the other side, and the sun will go down a little bit earlier. That would help. I don't know.
All these soccer stadiums have these awnings, and Northwestern, the design for the new Northwestern Stadium has those soccer style, awnings over. So maybe that's something that UCF should consider. Not bad. Italy is where Robert is. We've got another walk and talk with another exotic locale.
Let's see whose exotic locale wins out here.
Hey, sons, doing my best jeb shred out here. Got a question for y'all. For a young fan base, we've had a pretty good traveling crowd. Do you think going to the Big 12, all these cold, shitty towns, is going to affect that? Let me know what you guys think. Charge on. Go nuts.
Jeb shred is a term now in the Suns.
Jeb is a word. First off, I think he's got a UCF colored helmet on, so I got to give him some credits and points for that. His question about will some of these cold weather cities? I don't think so, man. I think some UCF fans will be willing to brave the cold weather. I don't know how cold it gets in some of these spots, but I don't think we're afraid of that stuff. Bring on the cold, Trace. We just yelled about shade. Now we got cold. We'll be fine.
Ames, Iowa in November. It's not going to be that fun of a trip. That's going to be freezing. I'm probably going to skip that one. I got a question for Mario. I know he's in the chat. Does he still have that helmet? Because I saw he posted half of his stuff was left over in Germany, and he was all the way back in the States. I'm sure
Mario, drop that in.
Yeah, get in there, Mario. Help produce the show first.
And the folks in the chat, which walk and talk did you like better? I mean, it's hard not to beat skiing. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, no, I may give my vote to Mario there. He well executed. I assume it's one take. I don't know. And again, Robert a little lengthy on that.
Yeah. Peterson at NightFan94. In honor of early signing day, if you flipped your commitment as a UCF fan, what program would you flip to? I thought about that today as it's 0 degrees here. Hawaii. I'd go out to Hawaii, be a Rainbow Warrior fan.
I don't know. UNF, because I live like a mile from the campus.
I actually went to grad school at FIU. I have a master's degree from FIU. They're close to my house. I guess I'm obliged to have to pick them.
Wow. That's interesting. At Golden Knight _ the second as a fan.
Hold on, Trey. What's more surprising to you, that Mike has a graduate degree or that he lives near FIU?
I did not know about either of these things, but if I were polling that question, I think it would be the grad degree.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I didn't know about that. At Golden Knight _ the second as a fan, which is easier to deal with, losing coaches or players to the transfer portal?
I say players, because coaches can have a reverberation. Players can always come back. You can replace them. They can change their mind. We saw what could have happened losing both our coordinators and what that can do to recruiting classes. So I'm going to go coaches just because I feel like there's a multi-year impact potentially on a coach leaving where you lose out on a player or two.
I'm used to the coaches leaving. That's been happening for as long as I've been watching college football. The players leaving after a year or two, I'm still not getting the hang of that yet. So it still bothers me a little bit.
Let's just speak about this. If Dolly's information turns out to be accurate and the Henderson twins come back, boy, that Addison Williams promotion looking really good.
Harris twins, but yeah,
Harris, yeah.
Again, here's the thing. I have no idea if any of these kids are good. I assume they're good. People tell me they're good. There are stars involved. But the law of averages would tell you we'll have some really great players. We'll have some role players. But if you want any evidence of this, here's my evidence, Trace. Here's my proof. We all lost our mind when we got Cordarian Richardson. Who remembers Cordarian Richardson, a 4-star running back, came to UCF. We thought he was going to be great. And yet it became 2-star Greg McCrae that really set his mark here at UCF. So I don't know what to do with some of these kids. I mean, more talent, the better. More local talent, the better. But I don't know that we're going to know how good some of these kids are. But good on Addison Williams. Been on the job for all of 72 hours, making inroads, keeping this class together. And gets an opportunity to call a defense now. Definitely happy for a promotion on Gus's staff.
George O'Leary will tell you the 5-star kids end up working at McDonald's. So take that for what it's worth. We have no idea if they're going to be good or not.
I thought about George on Monday when Coach Malzahn was talking about everything that a coach has to experience right now. Bowl prep, retaining your kids, you're losing kids to portal. I just don't see how George would have fit into this modern time of college football. Can you imagine him working in this environment?
No,
not well.
And see what he says.
Yeah. That's got to be a new segment. Mike, every week during the live show, at some point where you feel it's appropriate, text George and ask him a question. At Friedman SR, assuming Gus hasn't announced a new OC because maybe that coach is prepping for a bowl game, who would you like to see carry that black and gold clipboard next year?
Yeah, I think any number of names are out there that we've heard. Brendan Marion. I know Mike has been stumping for former quarterback Ryan Schneider. Kevin Smith's out there. Yes, I know Scott Frost is out there as well. I'm more curious to figure out, what kind of stylistic coach is Gus looking for? Someone that fits his style or something a little bit different, someone that brings a new spin on things. I think that'll be interesting to figure out.
I think he's definitely going to go with somebody that likes to run the same offense he does. He wants to have a say still in this offense. Even if he's not calling the plays, he still is going to be very involved. I'd love to see Frost. I'd love to see Schneider. I'd love to see Darren Hinshaw, any of the old UCF guys. Bring them back.
You can't bring Frost back.
I know he's not going to.
How would that even work?
No, it would be dumb of him to do it because obviously the fans will turn on him in a second. But it'd be very interesting. It'd be fun.
Do you buy this that Gus is ready to stop calling the plays a year or so after saying that he was never going to coach again without calling his own plays? I mean, it's not his idea.
I don't think it's his idea.
I don't think it's his idea either.
Yeah, I don't. I talked about this on the show. I'm not going to rehash all of it, but if you download the podcast, I talked a little bit about what we know. I think he was led to water on this one.
Yeah, at Rock Solid Dennis. Fans' strong opinions of T-Will. Everybody loved him earlier in the season, and some not sorry to see him go. Where do you rank his overall performance among defensive coordinators UCF has had? I think he's certainly better than Randy Shannon and Eric Chenander of late.
I just wrote down above average. I mean, I didn't sit here. Maybe Mike's got a top 5 list of defensive coordinators in UCF history I don't know about. I'd say above average. I think
he has 8. He has 8.
There's probably 8 of them, right? There were times where I think his defense played well, but obviously the drop off the last couple of months that we saw this year certainly will leave a bad taste in anybody's mouth.
Yeah, better than Chenander. Not as good as Gene Chizik. Somewhere in the middle, right?
Somewhere in the middle. What do you think of the move to Arkansas? Is that a good career move for him? I mean, he's doubled his salary. You can't sniff it yet. That's pretty good.
Yeah, what I said on the show too, I was like, Arkansas shocked me a little bit, but I mean, I think I saw 1.1 mil is his first year salary. He was making $600K at UCF. Who among us wouldn't take double a salary if you had the opportunity, even if you have to live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, I guess.
Yeah. If I'd had the opportunity, Dion's right up the street. No. I don't want to rehash all that.
Trace, you must win for a couple of IPAs. So I mean, I don't know what your going rate is these days.
At Neo Thin, what's the best way to keep up with commitments, signing, decommitments? He says keeping up with everything on Twitter is a mess. I do think as you follow this, you have to find your trusted sources, people that report news, and not always rumors. So that's why I look to Jason Beatty of the Orlando Sentinel and Chris with the Daytona Beach News Journal. When they say it's happened, I believe it a little bit more. I get tired of all the rumors and the misdirections.
It depends what you want. Like if you want rumors and you want that speculation and the gossip, there's plenty of people out there that can give you that, right? You see that all over social media. But if you just want to know, hey, tell me who signed and when they signed, yeah, find your trusted news sources. I would just tell everybody keep score out there. Keep score out there for people they follow and who tells you what's happening and what ends up coming to fruition. I think that'll average itself out in the end. But it depends on what you're looking for. If you want rumors and speculation about any college program, just search anywhere all over the place. You'll find it on social media.
Mike, how often have you been refreshing the latest on recruiting?
Yeah, I've been checking in throughout the day. I mean, just to know the names and just to keep me updated for the show and stuff. I've never seen any of the kids play before, so I can't really tell you. I go by what I read on the message boards and on Twitter, and you guys are all happy that these guys are here, then I'm happy too.
At UCF Realist, asking us for a full football roster breakdown by the end of the 22 calendar, which is in a week. Can you guys do a full roster breakdown? Departures, arrivals, position groups, strengths, weaknesses. I cannot. Mike, can you squeeze in any time on that with Christmas and bowls and travel? Realist, you got to give us a break. Can we work on that in the dead days of January?
I mean, before the end of the year is a little pushing it, but it doesn't matter. We're going to have to redo it again month by month. The roster is going to keep changing. 2 months from now, somebody else will enter the portal or we'll pick somebody else up, and we're going to have to do this all over again. We'll just wait until September when the season's about to start.
At Drew B, NYC, if UCF goes 7-5 next year in the Big 12, will UCF fans be ecstatic, or are they going to be ready to fire people? I think 7-5 would be great in a transition year to the Big 12.
I think so too, but I think it's probably somewhere in between. And it's a great question, Drew, but you also kind of have to understand, like, how did we lose these games, right? Were these, coaching gaffes made by somebody on the staff? Were they, a bad play by a player who shouldn't be playing? So some of that stuff will matter. I think it's somewhere in between, though. I think 7-8 wins next year in our first year in the Big 12. I think we should all be clapping and cheering for that kind of stuff. Yeah,
but like you said, if we blow some of these games to teams that we're not supposed to lose to, maybe Houston we play next year and we're supposed to beat them and just like losing to Navy, or are we losing to Boise State? So tell me who we're losing to, how we lost those games. I'm never going to be ecstatic over a 7-5 season. I'll be okay with it depending on the circumstances.
Andy, correction. Trace did not say 12-1. 7-5. 7-5.
Fun fact, very few things Andy says are actually true if you follow him on social media. I love Andy to death. Fun fact.
Yeah, it's a contrast, right? You trust his information on the play breakdowns, and then you read his social media, and
I'm convinced he's got a social media coordinator, because the Andy you see on the show and the Andy on Twitter, two different people.
Brian Peterson, it's going to be cold for the bowl game. Do you see Gus breaking out the sweater vest? No, on the sweater vest. Warm jacket of some sort. Yes, on the sweater vest?
I say yes. Let's go sweater vest. Let's go.
37. I don't know that the sweater vest cuts it if it's in the 30s.
We haven't seen him wear any cold weather stuff since he's been here, right? Last season or this season? What's the coldest game we've played in the last 2 years? I don't think there's been one.
Something at Temple, maybe. Maybe something in Philly.
I don't see him as a hoodie guy, right? So he's gonna. What is he?
Windbreaker situation. He's gonna do something with the collar, though. Whatever he can do with the collar, I think he needs a collar to continue to. I don't know what I want to use here.
No.
Full suit.
Jack Del Rio.
Was he Al Golden? He's gonna switch it. No, he's not doing that.
Mike, I got it. Puffy coat. Big puffy George Costanza-like coat. Diana Mims Reed, any helpful tips on how to stay warm at the Military Bowl game for this Florida girl? Heavy drinking before the game.
Booze, yeah. I mean, a little hot chocolate, a little spiced rum in there. You'll be fine.
Yeah, layer up, get some gloves, keep the extremities warm. Good socks, nice thick socks.
Nice thick
socks are underrated. Yeah, underrated.
And we'll end with Andy at UCF XOS. What's your worst or least favorite Christmas tradition? Which seems like a bah humbug kind of question instead of asking what's your favorite thing. What's your
all right, I'm ready. I have one. I don't enjoy the fancy Christmas dinner. Like, it's Christmas. Everyone's opened a lot of presents. You're probably tired. Just eat what you want. Like, if you want to have pizza, order pizza. Like, there's this thing about you have to have a fancy dinner and china and dress up and whatnot. There's football on. You've probably been up for like 16 hours. You have kids. You built some stupid Lego set and probably broke a thumb and stabbed your toe with a screwdriver and you're out of D batteries. Like, just have some pizza at the end of the night. Who cares?
Yeah, that's not a bad one. My thing is the gifts. I just dealing with the gifts. There's too many. Too many people I got to get gifts for. It gets very expensive. The wrapping. This is the first year. I gotta say I can't complain so far. Have not wrapped one gift. The kids now they wrap all the gifts. I'm loving it. I'm letting them cook in there. I don't care what it looks like. Let them wrap it. But there's always that one person that you forgot about, somebody's kid that you didn't think was going to show up. And you're like, oh crap! And then you're scrambling for a gift at the last second. The whole thing about Christmas, let's just be around each other, enjoy each other's company. Why do we have to be buying each other gifts? Don't get me anything. I won't get you anything.
Mike, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm just giving you the gift of my presence every week on the Sons of UCF Live.
That's all you need.
So have you guys decided with Christmas Sunday, you usually record Monday, and Mike, you got some travel plans next week? What's the plan? We got a new pod, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm off Monday. Monday's like a Sunday to me.
Same.
Most likely, we usually record Mondays. Sometimes we do Tuesdays. Tuesday, I'll probably try to get to bed a little early because my flight out of here is like 7:30. I'm gonna have to be at the airport by like 5:30. So.
One of my favorite things about your show is when Mike begins to detail his day and his schedule. It's all. I mean, I'm listening and I'm caught. I'm like, okay, he's going to do this in half hour, and then he's going to do this, and this is what time he's leaving, and he's got to get on the bright line, and this and that. That's one of my favorite things.
I gotta keep you up.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get, Trace. You never know what you're going to get.
I'm doxing myself.
Oh well. Yeah, well, maybe we'll be on Twitter next week. We could be censored for saying just that. I want to thank Steve, who gave us the breakdown on Duke, Andy with the play breakdowns, and Leo reporting live from the arena. Maybe we'll do a little bit more of that. And guys, thank you for accommodating a conflict I had on Thursday by going live on Wednesday. I hate going live against men's basketball, but we made the best of it. We were able to talk about early signing day the day of as well. So you guys have a safe, happy holiday. Merry Christmas, everyone. And we'll catch you next week. Sons of UCF Live on Thursday. Enjoy the bowl and the watch along with Adam and Andy and a cast of thousands. And we'll be back next Thursday night to talk all about, hopefully, UCF's 10th win. For Adam and Mike, I'm Trace Strelko. Go Knights!
Charge on. Merry Christmas, everybody.